Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for April 12th, 2022. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Avram Pelch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill, and our very special guest, Rich LeGrand, who is going to be talking about the new Vizy camera. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell folks about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I run a small company that kind of focuses on, I guess, educational applications of technology. We do a lot in robotics and using robotics and robot technology to teach science and engineering. And yeah, that's kind of our focus. We've worked with Carnegie Mellon quite a bit in previous years on various projects. Um, CMUCAM being one of them, telepresence robotics kit, and Gigapan. Gigapan was a mosaic taking robot that would, um, create these huge panoramas that you could post on the internet. But just focused, yeah, our company is mostly focused on educational uses of technology and making those kind of technologies easy to use.
Great. So, what can you tell us about Vizy?
Uh, Vizy's we've been it's kind of an evolution of our previous product, which was Pixie. Pixie started at Carnegie Mellon as the CNU Cam, and we kind of on a bit of a lark just kind of got involved in it. Um, Pixie's been shipping for about 8 years. I guess for those who don't know, Pixie's like a really small camera. Like here's Pixie. It's a really small camera. It allows you to. I mean, it's allows you to do like task based. Allows your robot to do task based things like chase a red ball or gather as many green, playing pieces as you can on your side of the field. If it were like in a robot competition scenario, but we so over the years, people have wanted to do different things with Pixie, and we want to do different things. We want to help people do different things with Pixie, but Pixie's resources, its RAM resources, its computational resources are limited, and we'd always wanted to do something with the Raspberry Pi, which is much less resource constrained, has a lot more computational power. It's a lot easier to program. It runs Python fairly fast, and so we thought it'd be a great platform to kind of explore these kind of imaging problems and things like bird feeders, that can identify birds and just various things that we thought were interesting. And that's kind of I guess that's kind of a long answer, but that's kind of it's Vizy is like a more sophisticated Pixie that's much easier to program, and yeah, it's easier to run whatever task you want to do on it. So that's kind of the main idea behind Vizy.
Les, you've been using the Vizy. Uh, How have you found it?
Really intuitive. I mean, great piece of hardware. I mean, it's bright green. You're not going to lose this on your desk. And trust me, I've got a messy desk. Great piece of hardware backed up by great software. So typically with Raspberry Pi, you'll sit there and you'll think, right, I need to do Linux. I need to, open a terminal. I need to do this. I need to do that. With this, it's all in the web browser. So I just want to ask, why did you choose to use the web browser as the means to control and work with Vizy?
Yeah, we were one of the tasks we thought would be, or one of the applications we thought would be nice is say if you had a smart camera in like a science classroom that you could teach, like in physics, you learn projectile motion and conservation of momentum and kinetic energy and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there wasn't really, there's some apps on the phone that you can use to kind of track objects that are in motion and measure their velocities and that kind of thing. We thought we could make something a bit more, you know, advanced, something that could measure lots of different objects at the same time and get their velocities very accurately. I mean, this is pretty nerdy stuff. Um, but we we thought, okay, well, this is perfect for our Raspberry Pi camera that we always wanted to do. Um, but the Raspberry Pi, it's a little, sometimes the use cases are a little cumbersome. Hooking up a monitor and a keyboard, so you can actually see what your Raspberry Pi is doing. Or maybe you have like you hook up, you have like a dedicated LCD panel or something like that. That seemed like a better idea, but it seemed like the best idea was just to have everything operate over the browser, just because browsers are just so ubiquitous, right? I mean, they're on your phone, they're on desktops, they're on laptops, they're on tablets. And once you get, that kind of functionality, once you get that path paved, you can then use it in lots of different ways, right? You could interact with your device, remotely over the internet. And so there was a lot of work behind doing that, trying to get everything browser based. But I think I think it's worked well. I mean, it allows you to the ease of use and usability factor goes way up when you do
Well, I
that.
see. As you say, you can use it across multiple devices. So in education environments in a classroom, you could be using Chromebooks, iPads, Windows PCs, Linux PCs, whatever, and you can just connect up via browser, and away you go. And it's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, thanks. We thought we've also spent a lot of effort trying to take that functionality, being able to interact with the device over the web, and uh, try to package up that technology in a usable form that other people can use. Not necessarily in a smart camera application,
Yeah.
but just any application that if you want to, I guess the word is deploy, a piece of hardware somewhere, and it's a piece of in this, when I say deploy, I mean it's in a place where you can't access it. It just has power and maybe networking hooked up to it, and you can't actually you can't actually power it off and on. You can only interact with it online. Um, I think those kind of applications are kind of cool, but I mean, being able to do that successfully is not easy. I mean, it's hard to develop an application under those conditions, and so we're trying to. That's one of the kind of side efforts that we're working on, is trying to create, package up that functionality that what we call it is, it's called Critter. It starts with a K, Kritter. It's
Yeah.
on GitHub. It's just like I mean, if you go there and check it out, there's just, a bunch of code. It's not really, the packaging isn't very fancy right now, but inside it has, the ability to stream video um, over WebRTC,
Yeah.
which is an internet technology. It has the ability to upload pictures to the cloud. It has like various GUI elements, for sliders and buttons and that kind of thing that you can
Yeah.
integrate into your application, so that your application, is interactive. So
Yeah. I noticed, Chris, when I was hacking around with the code for the edge detection script and doing some crazy Tron-like visuals with it, I saw all the calls to Critter, and I wondered what it was. So thanks for answering that.
Rich, I wanted to
yeah.
know. Oh, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, go ahead.
I wanted to know what specifications and features made the Raspberry Pi a more optimal choice for a control board as opposed to other boards. And you've kind of answered that already. So to expand on it, were there any other boards under consideration for driving the camera?
Not really. I mean, certainly there are lots of boards out there these days, and uh, I think that in the AI space, right, there's boards that might be higher performance than the Raspberry Pi. Um, and the Raspberry, I'm just a huge fan of the Raspberry Pi. I think it's an amazing piece of hardware. It's for the price, you get an amazing amount of performance. The support is amazing. The engineers behind the low level software and hardware are just state of the art, really top notch. I mean, I can't really say anything bad about the Raspberry Pi. I mean, it's also just in the maker space. It's just everyone. I think everyone's touched a Raspberry Pi. I don't think there's a lot of fear around it. So yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm a big fan. I'll tell you a story. When I was in high school, um, I had the rare privilege of programming the most powerful supercomputer of the time, which was the Cray 2. Um, I was super lucky. I got to program. I had like a afternoon or so to write a little piece of Fortran that would run on it, and I think it was like I calculated pi to 1,000,000 decimal places or something like that. It took the Cray 2 like all of 3 seconds. It was the best I could think of, and it was awesome. I had a picture of the Cray 2 in my room. That gives you an idea of what kind of kid I was growing up. It wasn't a Lamborghini; it was a Cray 2. But I uh, I was looking at the specs, comparing the specs of a Cray 2 to a Raspberry Pi 4, and the Cray 2 is no slouch, right? It could do 4 billion floating point operations a second, and with the Raspberry Pi, with all of its cores running and the graphics processor, it can do 8 billion floating point operations per second, and it's just amazing to me that I mean, I don't know. Young people are saying, yeah, 8 billion, it's not all that impressive, but it's just amazing to me that if you had told my teenage self, hey, in year 2020, you're going for $35 you can have something that's more powerful than a Cray 2, and what do you think people will do with them? And oh, they'll run retro arcade games on or, or they'll flash LEDs or something, right? I mean, the cool thing is that the Raspberry Pi has so much power that you don't really care, what you're running on it, and it's because of the price, right? I mean, that kind of computation today is really cheap. Um, anyway, I think it's cool just to see like on Vizy. I mean, there are several applications for Vizy. Like when it's sitting there trying to identify birds, it's running all cores, full on.
Mhm.
I think it's fun to just see what kind of performance you can get out of something like the Raspberry Pi, which as everyone knows is $35-$45.
So I have a question for you. Speaking of $35-$45, how is the current shortage of Raspberry Pis affecting your ability to deliver Vizy at the price that you want to deliver it? I mean, are you having to raise your prices? Have you managed to get a good stock of Raspberry Pi 4s to deal with the shortage? How are you handling it?
Yeah, it's a huge problem, especially for small OEMs like us. I mean, there is a food chain in manufacturing. The larger, I don't think many people talk about it, but Apple talked about, yeah, we had record sales of or revenue of iPhones last year, despite this part shortage. I don't think Apple has a lot of trouble getting parts. I think everyone delivers parts to Apple, and everyone else down the list, has more trouble. But including us, right? We're very small. So the Raspberry Pi is actually, I think they've done a pretty good job. There's obviously a pretty big shortage right now. We just got informed this morning that we have a shipment coming in, which is great, because we can't really ship Vizys without Raspberry Pis. We will come out with a Pi-less Vizy, so you add your own Pi to Vizy, to try to
nice.
deal with the shortage, because I think a lot of people have Pis. But the shortage is just really unfortunate, especially for small OEMs like us.
Yeah, I I could totally understand it. It's definitely a huge challenge. I'm curious why you chose to go with that color green. It seems like that's like a fun color. We saw PyTop use, I think, almost the same exact color on their
Yeah,
laptop.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I thought. I mean, if you look at Pixie, we have like I don't know if the graphics around Pixie are fairly whimsical and fun. We're trying to we're trying we like the idea of complicated technology not being scary. So I think that was kind of the choice behind the color. Um, it's kind of a happy color. I don't if it were. I think a lot of high tech stuff wants to be you have a lot of blacks and grays and maybe some dark reds or something like that. I thought, yeah, something a little bit more approachable would be nice. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the idea behind that.
Does the camera require a specific model of Pi, or is it interchangeable 3 and 4?
It it's definitely for. I mean, I think the software could run on a 3, but the case, like here's the case, like it has the ports that are very they're kind of built around the 4. Um, I mean, definitely the 4 was we went with the 4 because we want the most performance as possible. Um, so hopefully the next version of the Pi doesn't change the parts around.
Does it use
Um,
the 2 gig model?
we have a 2 gig, 4 gig, and an 8 gig model.
Okay.
So yeah. I guess it would run on the 1 gig model, but yeah, we offer the 2, 4, and 8.
Awesome. Do you reckon there could be a future model with a compute module 4 instead of the full blown Pi 4 inside?
Are you asking if we would use like a compute module instead?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean the compute module. I guess it's. I guess it has some advantages. If you use a lot of ports on the Pi, like all the USB ports and the video and audio and all that, and Ethernet, I think um, it's hard. The economics are hard. I don't see the economics working out because you got to put all that on a board anyway.
Yeah.
Um, the the Raspberry Pi Foundation has done such a good job of putting all that on there on the Pi proper board that it seemed like a good thing to try to take advantage of. Um, but I think if there was a more, I think Vizy is kind of there aren't any real products like their. I guess the OpenCV camera is kind of similar to Vizy. They claim to be an AI camera, and they are. I mean, they're a very powerful AI camera. Um, but I think that this product category, I don't even know if we're in the same product category as them, but I would say that's the closest product out there. Um, we don't really know, there's lots of potential applications out there for these kind of smart AI cameras, and I think trying to find, you know, which one of these applications is going to be the most compelling, which of these applications is going to be the one that kind of takes off, so to
Yeah.
speak. You know, is it a bird feeder application? You know, that defends the bird feeder and squirts squirrels? You know, I don't know. You know, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who want to squirt squirrels. You know, I mean, squirrels can be very annoying, but
That would be
it's
awesome. It also reminds me of in your marketing material, you've got a squirrel stood on top of a Vizy. I want to know, is that Photoshop or is it real?
it is Photoshop. Yeah,
Ah,
it's a pretty good job, right?
I like that. For a second, I really did think it was real. I'll be
I,
honest.
I think it could be have some great uses. I mean, depending on how well you program it, it could have some great uses in the home. For example, if you want to catch your cats jumping on top of a counter, maybe I don't know
Yeah,
if that's programmable, or if you want to catch your kids grabbing something or doing something that they shouldn't do. You know, like I don't know who opens the drawer or whatever.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
had
That's totally the idea, right? I mean, uh, like those kind of things, right? Like you know, in your house, you know, certain problems, you know, just kind of happen organically, and you need to solve them, right? You got to keep that cat off the table. How are you going to do that? You know, you can't go to Amazon and search for, cat repellent, whatever. I know, there's no device, no one's selling devices like that, but you know, Busy is easy enough to program where with a little bit of, I mean, not a huge amount. That's the idea is not a huge amount of technical know-how. You could kind of piece together something to do that, right? You know, maybe you could make a lot of noise and Pixie see or Vixie sees your cat on the table, or you know, I'm a fan of squirting jets of water,
yep,
um,
yep,
or
yep.
just like texting you when your dog wants to be let out. You know, you face your camera at the back door, right, and it can detect when your dog or cat wants to go out or something
Cook
like that.
cookie car jar cam. Yes,
I had the same
actually,
thought.
I have the opposite problem in the house with my 3-year-old. She wants to go upstairs by herself and brush her teeth when no one is looking.
That's adorable.
Yeah, but we don't want her like hanging around upstairs when everyone else is downstairs. So that's the
Yeah.
problem. But yes, she wants to go upstairs. She wants to go upstairs to the upstairs bathroom and brush her teeth when no one is looking, and she wants to go and like mess with dishes in the sink or whatever or wash her hands in the kitchen sink when no one is looking. So like, we gotta that's what we would program it. That's what we would program it for. Speaking of how it works, I'm curious why you made the decision to go with the camera module that you went with, as opposed to say a Raspberry Pi HQ camera or something else.
Um, I mean, the camera module is essentially a HQ camera. The camera module is made by uh, uh,
Arducam.
Arducam.
Is it an Arducam?
Yeah.
Lost my train of thought there. Um, yeah, it's we need so the what we wanted was we wanted the switchable IR cut filter, which the HQ camera didn't have out of the box. Um, I think that we are getting a little bit of better pricing through Arducam, but yeah, that's essentially why we're not using the Pi branded camera module. But
Mhm.
I mean, functionally they're pretty much identical. I mean, we put with that IR cut filter, it's a C mount, and we have actually it's a C mount like this. This is uh, this outer ring is C mount, and then we have an M12 adapter to use that's the default lens, which is wide angle. You could take this whole thing out, and then you could use a C mount lens if you wanted to.
Wow.
The issue is that uh, when you have such a small sensor, I mean the the sensor, the HQ camera sensor is a lot bigger than the previous sensor, but
Mhm.
it's still kind of small. When you have a small sensor, putting big optics on it, you end up with kind of a narrow frame field of view,
Yeah.
and uh, So that's why this camera, I mean, why this lens is an M12 lens. It has smaller optics and it gives you a much wider field of view without the distortions that you'd normally get. Like,
Yeah. I noticed that when I was doing the review, I used the lens that comes with it, and distortion-free picture was lovely. I changed it to one of the lenses I had it in my bits box, and there was notable distortion around the periphery of the image.
yeah, that was one of the things we struggle with. What kind of lens should we use on this thing? I mean, C-mount lenses are generally considered to be higher quality, industrial, that kind of thing. But with a small sensor, you can't get the field of view that you want. You can get nice lenses that nice telephoto lenses if you want to get a good zoom, but a lot of times you want wide field of view, and that's difficult with the smaller sensor. So we kind of straddle both worlds of C mount and M12. There's lots of each, so you have lots of choices.
Yeah.
So speaking of lots of choices, Les, you've been working with the Vizy Cam, and you've also been working with another new board. Can you tell us about what you've been working on lately?
I can indeed, yes. It's a new board from Pimoroni, the Pirates from Sheffield on Sea. That's a joke for the British viewers. Servo 2040. So here it is. It's an RP 2040 board, as you can guess by the name. And there's a chip there. And it's a remarkable little board. So it's about £24 in the UK, which, doing a quick bit of mental maths, is about $30, I do believe, US price. And it's designed just for robotics and controlling servos. So you can see across the top here, we've got 18 outputs for controlling servos. Now, if you've never seen a servo before, here we go. These are the ubiquitous ones, the SG90s that you find in all the hobby kits. That's a plastic geared servo. That's the MG90, I think it is. Yeah, MG90S. That's a metal gear. And on the little demo I've got here, I've got some Lego compatible continuous servos to play around with, all in my little Lego demonstration here. But not only has it got servo connections, it's got sensor connections. So we've got, I believe it's 6 inputs on one side where we can plug in different types of sensors. At the minute, I've got a 10K potentiometer to act as an input, which I'm going to use in a second. It's got built-in RGB LEDs, and they are NeoPixels WS2812. And it's got the QWST, the Quest or Stemma QT, or the quick connection from SparkFun. So you can plug in external boards. It runs MicroPython. I'm pretty sure it runs CircuitPython as well. And it looks to be a labour of love from Chris Parrott, who did this board for Pimoroni. He also did the Trillobot for Pimoroni, which we reviewed last year. Great bit of fun. 16 servos all at once. I haven't got 16 servos, I've got 6, but I can still do a demonstration for you. So right now, the code I've got, I'll just go to screen capture. Here we go, and I will just go to Funny so I can see it. Really, the code right now is just looking at an analog input, so my potentiometer, and seeing what the voltage is that's returned. So it could be 0, it could be up to 3.3 volts. A little bit of maths is done, and it converts that here into a speed. So I've times it by 30 to give me from 0 to 99, because it's 3.3 volts. So the code's running. So if I go back to here, you can see the motors are spinning. You can see the voltage is changing and the speed is changing in the shell. And if I give it the full beans now, there we go, full speed ahead. But that's a simple demo. That's just showing you can control servos with this. And it's a continuous servos as well, so it'll just act like a really simple motor. But if I had 18 of these on, I could have them all going at different speeds, different percentages, different frequencies, different values, whatever I need to, and have them doing precision control across either 180 degrees or 360 degrees if I've got continuous servos. But it's a really interesting board because it's really easy to do robotics with this. If I plug in 2 more servos, a couple of sensors, and a few more Quest Stemma boards, then away I go. I've got a really good robot in a very small chassis. So I'm still doing the review for this, but so far so good. I'm really liking it.
Have they dropped any price details on it yet?
Yeah, UK price is £24, which is roughly $30. So I think that's a good value for what you're getting, because you're getting a lot of servo control in a very small board. I mean, here is a Pico for a size comparison. There we go. Let's go to camera 2 so you can get it in shot. So it's not much bigger than a Pico, is it really?
So how is that receiving power again?
It receives power over USB-C there. But there is also an external power connection just there.
Nice.
You can plug in.
So I have a question for you, Les. Where do those motors and fans come from? Are those like Lego pieces?
They are Lego compatible. Actually, I bought these my own money from Pimoroni last year for a bit of fun, because I've got the build hat, the Lego build hat for Raspberry Pi, and I've got lots of Technic Lego already. So I thought, what can I do with this? Oh, look, continuous servo motors. So bought a couple, played around, and brilliant fun. They just slot straight in. So if I use the pegs for Technic, there you go. They probably have got a proper technical name, but I don't know them. I can build them straight in. Or if I've got system Lego, it's got the studs at the top. Let's get it in shot. There we go. Oh. And it's got the base there. So I can put it straight into Lego system. I think they're about £7 each off the top of my head. £6 or £7. So say approximately $8 to $10 per motor. But well worth it if you've got kids who are going and playing with Lego and want to go up to the next level with Technic.
That is really cool.
Wow, that is really neat. So Ash, speaking of taking things to the next level, I know you've been programming some things in tkenter. Is that how we pronounce it?
I had to look that one up again too. It's apparently pronounced tkenter, and I've heard about it for a while. I cover Raspberry Pi projects for through Tom's Hardware, right? We've done this for years, and I've seen tkenter pop up as a tool that makers use to create interfaces, and I just never took the time to mess with it until this week. So if you've not heard of it before, it's a lovely system that lets you create GUIs from scratch. And if you're a student or a new maker, GUI just means graphical user interface. So something with that you can look at. It's not just text-based. You've got a window, it draws everything up. So this is my first time digging into it, and I want to show you guys what I've put together so far, because it's really easy to get started, a lot easier than I expected. So I'm going to share my screen. This is VirtualBox. I'm running Raspberry Pi OS just because it's a little bit easier to share here on the podcast. But bear in mind, there's no reason this won't work on any Raspberry Pi pretty much, if you can get a hold of any Pi, pretty much a 0, whatever. But I've got this code loaded up here, and tkenter actually comes preloaded with the latest edition of Python, so you don't need to do anything special to install it. If you've got the latest Raspberry Pi OS, which has an update we're going to talk about here in a minute, we don't need to forget that. So you just import tkenter, and my code here you can see at the top. You import it and a couple of extra packages that we're going to use, and you have to define your window size and title through here. And I've got a little bit of code here to define the button process, and then a little bit of code to create the button itself. And I'm going to run this application. It's going to draw us our window. We can see all of the text that we've added to it. I can click on the button, and it's going to give us a function. So let's see if I can get it to run here. So this is the window I've drawn. The title here says Hello Picast. We've got a click me button. We'll see what that does in just a second. But I want to show you guys how easy it is to change little things about like just the window size or whatever. Let me get this to stop. So the window size came up at 500 pixels by 350. Let's make that a solid square. Don't debug. Run. There we go. And then we have like a solid square window. Making small adjustments is just that easy. But if I click this button, we get a pop-up and it says, hey, you clicked me. You click OK and it goes back. So that's what I threw together. That's how easy it is to play with. I got a debugger error. Don't worry about that. That's how easy it is to play with. It's easy to get started. I know there's a few other tools out there that people use for building GUIs, and I do want to play with them later. But for right now, check out tkenter because your Pi already has it. It's ready to go. Pretty fun stuff. What do you guys think? Have you used it? Would you use it?
I need to use it.
Yep, I've used it in the past. It's It's solid. It gets the job done. It's also cross-platform, so I believe it works on Windows as well.
Oh, that's so useful. The compatibility there is very useful.
Rich, have you had a chance? Have you had to program anything in tkenter?
Yeah, yeah, it's great. I mean, it's kind of the I guess default GUI library that Python uses. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think it's great stuff. I mean, the great thing about Python is just it lowers the barrier to entry to so many things. You know, in this case, you know, GUIs, right? I mean, GUIs are not super simple, and
No.
this makes it really nice and easy.
I threw that together just this morning. I mean, that took no time at all. There's so many tutorials. You just pretty much import everything, draw a window, make it do this. Simple.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank Rich so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Obviously, the place that you want to go is vizycam.com. Also, we have a review of the VizyCam that should be going up either today or tomorrow. So, spoiler alert, we really like it. And of course, we are here every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. UK time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time, and we will be back next week. Oh wait, someone has a question in the last minute. I do want to answer it. Thrilled to see the release of Vizy. Was hoping someone would come out with a product with these capabilities. Is there a significant benefit going from 4 to 8 gigabytes?
Not so much. I mean, Vizy records. One of the things it does is it records video to RAM, and I guess sometimes it stores it uncompressed to get the highest frame rates, and that's the only thing I can think. At least today. I mean, it's always nice to have more RAM, but I don't think it's going to limit you in the capabilities at all. A lot of people get the 8 gigs though. I mean, like I said, I mean, more memory is usually a good thing.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We will see everyone next week. Bye.
Thank you.